What's up, everybody? Welcome to In Love with Horror. My name is AJ.
And I am Kristie.
And we're about to dive into stop motion, y'all. So stop motion is up on it's online, considered a 2023 film, but it's just now getting its limited theatrical release. So we're about to give you a non-spoiler review of stop motion. So a little bit about stop motion. It was written and directed by Robert Morgan, and he's actually a award-winning stop motion artist. So it makes sense that he made a movie all about, stop motion and working with stop motion. It looks like he also had help from Robin King as well on this. Our main lead star is Aisling Francois.
I don't know.
I'm probably butchering that like real bad, y'all. Sorry about that. But she, we saw her in the latest film we saw her in was Last Voyage of the Demeter. She was also in Nightingale from a few years ago, which was a really good movie. That movie was I thought super good. But she's our lead in this one. So the synopsis online for stop motion reads, a stop motion animator struggles to control her demons after the loss of her overbearing mother. And kind of like, keeping it non-spoiler, the summary is like, we meet our character. Her name is Ella, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Ella is the daughter of a, famous stop motion movie animator. And she's very overbearing. She's like a perfectionist. And her mother is kind of like, she's got, I don't know what sickness she has. Yeah, like some sort of arthritis or whatever. So she can't actually use her hands very good. So she's finishing her last film by way of her daughter assisting her in moving the, figures, millimeter by millimeter. You know what I'm saying? And but she's super overbearing, a perfectionist. But she ends up getting hospitalized. And our lead actress, or at least character, she goes and at first starts to try to finish her mother's film for her. But then she ends up down a different path, creating a new story when she encounters this little girl character in the new apartment building that she's living in. And then once she starts her new original project, that's when we get this descent into madness, and the things you see in the trailer start to happen, and it gets super weird and creepy. So with this film, the way I kind of described it when we walked out of it was like a body horror ASMR movie is kind of the vibe that I get from this film. So for the audience, there's two things in this movie that they utilize to make you feel uncomfortable, right? And there's the body horror one, which, it's body horror. So if you are super kind of like, because it's not super graphic, but
it's graphic enough.
It's graphic enough. Mm-hmm. So if you're squeamish to some extent when it comes to body horror, like you may not vibe with this movie. But then there's also the auditory experience to this movie where the audio and the sounds are super like overbearing, and I'm assuming it's on purpose to give you that discomfort.
Well, yeah,
feeling.
It has to be. Yeah,
and they definitely achieved that objective of being uncomfortable. For me, it's a little too much. Like,
I agree with that.
It happened the like ASMR moments where like sounds of the movie would kind of drown out, and it would be very specific sounds that became super loud and overbearing. And it was a little too much, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Like they went overboard in the discomfort area, and to the point where like it just, because you can be uncomfortable in the movie and still like enjoy it. But this was like being uncomfortable to the point where it's like, okay, I can't even like enjoy this movie at all. It was so, it's a lot, y'all. So if you don't like a lot of the like ASMR type of stuff where like people are breathing into the mic and the sounds of different things are super amplified. Yeah. Like if someone was like scratching this mic right here, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't mind ASMR, but I just felt like this was a lot.
Yeah, it was.
And now I think, because I even mentioned to you, it was like every sound was like amplified. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even like major sounds. Now, if you're familiar with stop motion, there's like, these apertures. I can't remember the name of it.
I can't remember
what the figures are. And so when you move them, they make sounds. So I feel like the use of that sound was really well done.
Yeah.
But all the other small things, like on top of it, like there's a part where she's like rubbing someone's head or someone was rubbing someone.
Yeah. And
you hear that. It's like, that's an unnecessary sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just way too much.
Yeah, it was a lot. What were your like overall thoughts on this film? Like, how do you feel about it? And then we can kind of like start to like pick apart like why we feel that way.
Well, okay. I feel as though if I had given this review after we had watched the film, like immediately, I would have given it a much worse rating. Mm-hmm. But since we had some time to kind of like think about it, it's not much higher. But I will say like, well, I even said this. I said the movie itself wasn't bad. I don't think it was a bad movie. Mm-hmm. I just personally don't think it was the movie for me.
Right.
But I definitely can see how this could be perceived as like a really great movie too, because I've seen people give it like 10 out of 10 ratings.
I've seen some of those,
and I don't agree with that. There's points in the movie where you get predictable. You already know what's going to happen.
Yep.
But it's a very visual and auditory focused film, right? So like the visuals are really nice. I think the visuals of this film are really good. Like the tone, the color grading, all that stuff I think are really good. And then there's some scenes where I feel as though it doesn't really fit. Like, what is the purpose of this scene? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, oh, I want to have this scene, so we're just going to do this scene. Yep. It doesn't really fit the overall story or make sense for the story at all, really. I think Aislinn's performance was really good.
I agree.
I really liked her in this role. But yeah, after a while, it's very predictable and it becomes like another horror movie. But I do like that stop motion aspect too. So, but yeah, it wasn't my favorite film. I already said I didn't like the ASMR stuff.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah,
it wasn't my favorite.
And just to get some context, like we watched this over the weekend, so we're reviewing it, a few days later at this point. So we've had some time to like digest dwell on it, digest it, think about it, mull it over. For me, my feelings of it haven't really changed. Mm-hmm. I didn't really like the film when we came out of it. I still don't like it. And I agree with you in that it's not like it's a bad movie.
Yeah, the movie's not bad.
It's not like when we went and watched Night Swim and it's like, this is
definitely not that bad.
This is terrible. This movie's not like that. This movie is, my main issues with it were the overuse of the ASMR stuff. I feel like it was just used a little bit too much. Like they drove the point home, but then they like went way past that. You know what I'm saying? Okay, y'all doing a little too much. Because I like the like body horror stuff, like the extreme stuff, the disturbing stuff. I actually like that kind of stuff. So those parts of the movies, like I was cool with, you know what I'm saying? But for me, it's more about like the pacing and just like the story beats of the movie. Like you said, some stuff was
I agree with the pacing.
Yeah, some stuff was predictable. But then like I think it was just the way the story was laid out, and just the road to the descent into madness just didn't feel good. Like it doesn't have to make perfect sense, but at least has to have some context to it. And I feel like this is one of those movies where, and I personally don't like when people treat it like this, but I feel like this is the kind of movie that people will treat it where it's like, oh, you have to be smart enough to get it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you just don't get it. Where it's very like artistic in its expressions, right? So as a result, all you get is a bunch of like these people who consider themselves to be connoisseurs of the artistic expression in cinema, and they'd be like, oh man, you just don't get it. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like a movie can be super creative and artistic in its expression and still get its points across and things like that without spoon feeding you, what the story means. Yeah. Like, and to kind of speak to like the big thing, right? It's like the movie's about stop motion. And honestly, like my favorite parts,
the stop motion parts,
were like the stop motion parts. They were actually really cool.
They were cool.
And I like the concept of this movie of blending live action stop motion. I think that was a genius idea, and kind of mimicking what we see in her movies of the stop motion stuff with what starts to happen in real life and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I thought the blending of that was super dope. I like that. I like those elements of the film, and my favorite parts were the stop motion stuff. But I just felt like it was just lacking something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think I almost feel like it was getting weird, but I almost feel like they should just went even like weirder with it, to really like to really sell it, and then also just make it more like creepy too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like our character was very creeped out,
right?
But I feel like it wasn't conveyed to the screen very good for like the audience.
I agree with
like,
that.
I'm not feeling the same level of
creepiness,
fear, and creeped outness that she's feeling, and maybe it's just the way that the film is presenting it. But yeah, ultimately that's the big things, because the performances were all great. Our lead's performance was, I thought, superb. Again, like I said, the visuals were great. The stop motion aspects, because we're both big fans of stop motion, so
yeah,
seeing that in this kind of like horror aspect, I thought was super dope.
It was,
and how it evolved throughout the movie was super cool. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
And I like some of the like motifs and symbols where like you start to she gets, because the movie is kind of about getting absorbed in your work, and your work kind of taking over your life and essentially making you physically ill to you know what I'm saying, in a way. And that's kind of what this movie symbolizes and expresses. And there's she gets so involved into the work that she starts to hear the sounds of stop motion and the squeaking of the things in real life, as she's like hanging out with her boyfriend, and they having sex and stuff, and
you spoiling stuff.
Oh, my bad. I didn't think that was a big spoiler,
Not a big one, but still.
But you get what I'm saying. My bad. But if y'all consider that to be big spoiler,
I'm not saying it's a big one, but you are.
I'm just giving some context to it, right? Of like, what it means, right? Like getting so absorbed into your work that you lose sight of literally everything else in your life, and your work ends up becoming,
its own life, basically, its own presence in your life. Yeah.
So like, hey, look, I get it. You know what I'm saying? But it just didn't 100% work for me. And I think there's, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I think in this case, it's just one of those films. It's like either you really love it or you don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think there's much in between with it. You know, it's just because of the type of style of this film is. But I really would love to see this director make another movie.
Yeah.
And see what else he comes up with. Because like you said, like the aspects I feel that probably he contributes the most, which is like the stop motion parts and just the whole overall characters that he's created. I think they're really good.
Oh yeah.
I just didn't like the movie.
This is not one of those situations where it's like a night swim. Cause I'm using that because that's the latest movie we reviewed that we really didn't like.
And it came from a big studio as well.
Yeah, where it was just like, this movie's not even worth seeing. This movie I think people should watch this. Yeah, I think you should go out and check this film out to see if it's for you.
Right. I just don't think it's for everybody.
Yeah, because I like you said, it's not a bad movie.
No, it's not a bad movie.
It's just I just personally didn't like it. It didn't 100% work, and it's really just the story beats pacing and stuff like that. But I mean, anything else you want to add? I feel like that's kind of it, because we gotta keep it non spoiler, and I already said too much, I guess.
You have, and I don't want to. I don't know. Did you want to give it a rating?
I feel like if I had to, I'm gonna go probably around the like somewhere around 2 to 2.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
I would give it closer to 2.5 to 3, like maybe like 2.75, because Robert Morgan went out and wrote and directed this movie, but I don't want to take away from what he created at the same time.
Well, nah, but you got to be honest about it.
I am. Those are all things that are contributing. Because
you can't contribute
2.75.
But you can't contribute the fact that they went and made a movie, so I'm gonna give it a little bit higher rating.
Yes.
It don't work like that.
It does.
It don't work that way.
It does work that way.
Nah.
Because look, we went.
That's all it is. You're trying to be way too nice.
Well, I already said what I thought.
No, that's cool.
Come up with a rating off that.
That's cool. 2.5, I'll give you. That's fine.
Okay.
I
said 2.75.
Look, y'all. I thought
it was very creative. It's very original.
You pull one of them Chris Stopman moves right now.
Oh, wow.
He said, I can't talk bad about shit.
I said, listen, it's an original movie. Mm-hmm. It's very creative. Yeah. You know, you already said It was cool to see them mix live action, stop motion. Okay, those are all good
I brought
points.
that all into it. You know what I'm saying?
Anyways, okay, continue.
But anyway, that's what we think about stop motion. If you've seen the film, let us know down in the comments below. What did you think about it? Did everything work for you? If it did work, let us know your thoughts on how, what about it, made you want to get.
You're just I want to understand.
Well, I do a little bit because there are some very high ratings for this, and I'm just kind of like, I can see it to some degree, but 10 out of 10s and 9 out of 10s. I guess I'm just, I just want some further clarity on people who why they feel that way. But if you really didn't like this movie, let us know down in the comments as well, kind of what did not work for you. But hey, we got a lot of movies coming up, so make sure you subscribe to the channel, y'all, because what we got? Imaginaries coming out, and that's one I'm kind of a little worried about.
I hope it's good.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah, well, not big buys, but I'm really looking forward to Late Night with the Devil next month. I know that's not a big one, but I'm still looking forward to it.
Yeah, but it looks very creative.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it looks very creative. We're going to have a lot to talk about, so make sure you subscribe to the channel, y'all. And if you like this video, make sure you like it, share it, comment, and again, subscribe to join the discussion on all things horror. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.